Welcome back to episode 7 of the Strategy Edge podcast. In this insightful episode, we will be diving into the pivotal role that staff play in delivering exceptional customer experiences and ultimately in propelling a brand to new heights. We're joined once again by Christopher Roberts, brand interventionist and author of 10 Reasons Why CX NPS Programs Fail, as we explore with him the genuine impact of engaged and purpose driven employees on the success of CX and Net Promoter Score strategies. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you, Kirtana. This is a very exciting topic for me, I have to tell you, because my biggest successes in my career has been because of strong employee engagement. To give you a bit of a background, I started off my career in sales and then I went into marketing. And when I went into marketing, I kind of realized that we were getting smarter with our segmentation, our media buying, our CRM systems, our modeling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We were getting very, very smart. But, sales was still dropping and it was almost like marketing was losing its effectiveness. And one day I actually did some maths and I used to work for a banking institution then. They had 250 odd branches. And I did a bit of maths and I said, look, there are 250 odd branches. People walk in every day. What if we could leverage some of those interactions just a little bit? What could we achieve? And
Right.
the maths was staggering, right? It just became like a case of wow, this is kind of amazing if we could leverage it. So from that point on, I looked at how can we leverage staff? How can we make sure that their jobs were purposeful and meaningful? I used to notice as an example, everyone has Mondayitis,
Mhm.
and in Australia, people used to come in on Monday, and the only thing they used to talk about was the footy match or the rugby match on the weekend or the cricket match on the weekend, and what happened and who won and who didn't win. And I was thinking to myself, what if I could kind of like make a little bit of that fun that they experience in the weekend and that little sense of purpose and meaning and contribution into their day to day kind of work existence? And that is exactly what I tried to focus on. And then I had some amazing results. I mean, to give you an example of some of the results, a 1000% increase in cross sell in our contact center from like
Okay.
10,000 to 110,000 as an example. 80,000 incremental sales in terms of banking. And then the last and probably the most impressive one was I was head of marketing and communications at a brand that had gone through massive brand damage, like 8 months of negative press every day, which was unprecedented. And what we did with staff played an absolute critical role in terms of recovering that brand from being, the best in its category, then going to become the worst in its category, and then become the best in its category again. And look, I'm looking forward to sharing all these stories with you in this conversation.
Absolutely, Chris. It sounds like something that's going to be very, very interesting. So, to begin with, my very first question is why do you think staff are important in delivering great customer experiences?
Okay, so the first obvious answer is they are the ones who deliver the experience, right? And
Right.
in any service experience, you can look at it and say, look, it's a great experience or it's a bad experience. If you go to a restaurant, as an example, the person who serves you can deliver an amazing experience or they can deliver a terrible experience. They can make you feel like you're an invited guest at their home, or they can be just transactional, just drop the dishes on the table and go away. So,
Right.
staff actually deliver the experience. But the second thing is, like I said before, it's how they deliver the experience. There are so many experiences that are just bland and uneventful and transactional. So, for example, when you go to a supermarket and people say, "How are you? Good morning," blah, 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 they don't even make eye contact. And the reason they don't make eye contact is because someone told them to do something. They weren't really engaged in the whole process, and it becomes really kind of eventful interactions. And the key thing is when you look at how they deliver it, the bridge is really emotion. Even in a transactional interaction, do they take time to make you feel valued and cared for? In the supermarket example, do they make eye contact when they say something? Do they smile? That makes all the difference. And that's the key thing. So, staff are the delivery mechanism of your service experiences. And I have to tell you this, even if it's purely e-commerce or electronic, someone, in the organization has looked at an e-commerce application and delivered an experience, hopefully, that has emotional resonance. But they've developed it, even though the technology is actually delivering it. But someone came up with that concept. And, the best experience, the best example I can give you of this is I use Spotify for my music. And at the end of 2023, it gives you like a summary of all the songs you heard. And I have to tell you, this time I listened to it and it came as a bit of a surprise because it did the usual stuff, the songs you listen to in January and February and March and all this kind of jazz. But in the middle of it, suddenly my phone rang like I was getting a call. And on the video, up popped the songwriter of my favorite song of the year, saying, "Thank you very much for my support." And I go, "My God, this is amazing." Just to see him there. And it seemed personalized. It looked like it was a special thank you just for me, right? And
Right.
that's what I mean. Even if everything doesn't involve a person somewhere came up with that idea and executed it. So people are absolutely critical.
Absolutely. So, given the 20 odd years that you've been doing NPS very actively and your experience across like 200 odd brands, what are the underlying questions that employees silently ponder when presented with a new NPS or a CX strategy? And how do you think leaders, I mean, business leaders especially, can address them effectively?
Okay, all right. So this is really critical, and I've used this, in many, many implementations. And it's almost a checklist that if you tick all the boxes, you're guaranteed success, right? Now, we've all been through this. A senior executive, maybe even the CEO, comes down and presents to staff this new strategy. This new strategy is intellectually robust, strategic, has factored in market conditions, customer conditions, competitor considerations, done all that jazz. Right? So it's intellectually robust, and they come and they present it. And when they present it, the staff nod in agreement. And and chances are that if you haven't answered these questions that I'm going to take you through, as good as that strategy is, it'll probably fail, right?
Okay.
Now, and I explain what these kind of questions are. So the first question you have to answer is very simple, which is like, what is this? So explaining it. So let's just say if you look at CX NPS, you explain that this is a customer program. We want to be worthy of recommendation. This is how it works. This is how it's calculated. This is how we'll measure you, all that kind of stuff, right? The second question after what is why, right? Why are we doing this? So that
Right.
is also relatively simple. We are doing this because we really want to stand out, in a sea of sameness. We want to build a competitive advantage. We want to build a point of difference. We want to drive word of mouth. We want to drive referral sales, all that. So why also becomes relatively easy to communicate. Then the next thing gets harder, which is how do I do it? So I look at it and I go, intellectually, I understand. We have to create promoters, we have to create experiences worthy of recommendation. But how do I personally do it? What do I do differently? Like, I think I'm doing a pretty good job today, right? So, what do I have to do tomorrow to make a difference? Correct.
Right.
And that's a hard question. The next question is linked to that is okay, I do understand what is expected of me now, but will you train me? Will you train me in terms of how to deliver experiences that are not just good, but are worthy of recommendation? Because that's a big ask, right? Like
Right.
how do I actually do it? Um, Training is one thing, but then resources is something else. I'll give you a classic case of the contact center situation where people say you have a grade of service where you can only be on the phone for 3 minutes. If you've been longer than that, then you're not actually performing as well as you should, right? Now, and that's fine, but then you actually say to people, we want you to increase cross sell. And they go, yeah, can you give me more time to increase cross sell? And you say, no, no, you have to fit it within 3 minutes. And then you introduce an NPS CX program. You go, you know what, we want you to create rapport, we want you to build a great relationship with customers. um, and then you go, well, I'm stuck with 3 minutes, can you give me 30 seconds more to build this rapport and all this? And people say no, and that's a classic case of not getting the resources, right?
Right.
So if you don't do this, again, the program is going to fail. And the last thing, which almost everyone ignores, is answering the question from a staff member's perspective: what's in it for me, right?
Right.
What do I get? And what do I get can mean a host of things. It can mean that I want to deliver great experiences for this brand because I'm proud of this brand, as an example. Your what's in it for me can be, look, I hate our competitor and I want to do whatever I can to defeat them, as an example. But what you really need to look at is linking in to an individual's purpose and values, right, in a very strong way. So what I normally find is, if you meet their core needs, so all staff, there are two kinds of staff actually. One lot that are self motivated, and they are the ones who normally rise up to the ranks of becoming executives and go up the corporate ladder and so on and so forth. The other people, it might not even be the first job in the household, right? And what they're looking for is, they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. So this ability to contribute, this need for connection, where they're working with their teams to deliver a great result. So teaming, as an example, having fun, making a difference, all those types of things. And the strongest thing you can do is actually look beyond economics in terms of selling widgets or selling your products, but look at making a difference. So what people are looking for is, they don't just want to sell widgets for you or service widgets for you, right? They want to be part of something where they are making a difference in the lives of customers. And once you appeal to this sentiment, and I'll tell you the case study a little bit later on. Once you can appeal to this sentiment of making a difference beyond economic outcomes, then people go, yeah, that makes sense. I want to do this and I want to be part of this. And making it fun. Like, in a typical contact center environment, or a sales environment, or a service environment for that matter, the jobs are quite repetitive and boring and transactional. But if you can add a little spice to it and make it fun, then that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. So, Chris, given this, how do you think involving employees in the entire ideation process enhance their commitment and drive towards positive outcomes, with the CX NPS initiatives that a brand is implementing or intends to implement?
Yeah, look, I have to tell you that fundamentally, the thing I've always found is that without involvement, there's no commitment. You can tell people to do something, and you'll get a degree of commitment. But when they're involved in the design and delivery, it's a whole different ball game. I have to tell you, even in our consulting engagements, sometimes when you go and visit a client, we actually know what the end outcome should be, right? But we deliberately don't tell them. We kind of, workshop and facilitate an outcome that comes from the client. And we, of course, check to make sure it's right. And the reason we do that is, after we leave, we don't want a situation that says, the consultant said we should do this.
Right.
We want them to say, we came up with this, and hence the commitment is higher. And that's the main reason. When you involve them, you just get a greater degree of commitment. I mean, we do things, as an example, where if we do a customer strategy workshop, we put it in a big banner, like the customer value proposition or the customer experience DNA statement. And we get all the staff who attended to sign off on it, right? When we do bottom up ideation, where frontline teams like service teams, sales teams, product teams come up with an ideation session, they come up with a list of ideas that's approved and they all sign off against it. So it's like, we said we would do this, not, oh, you should do this from your own end. That makes a big difference in terms of engagement.
Right, right, absolutely. So, what are the potential benefits of providing employees with a sense of purpose and aligning their roles with the organization CX NPS strategy? What have you found in your experience?
Yeah, look, historically, most people who come to work are looking for a link to a purpose beyond economics, like I've spoken about already. But having said that, this younger generation, that need is completely amplified. So, what the younger generation is looking for is work that is meaningful and purposeful. And as we all know, they want to do that like right now. They don't want to wait for a few months to do it, right? They want to make a difference right now.
Right,
So it is a great opportunity to actually tap into this feeling. The They're looking for experiences where you're not exploiting customers or taking advantage of them, but you're really making a positive difference to their lives, right? So it's beyond again selling widgets, I suppose. And like I said before, sometimes executives have blinkers on because they are motivated by certain things and they are self-motivated and they don't need any extrinsic reasons to be good performers. They
right,
forget that staff actually need those extrinsic aspects. And the main thing you can leverage is they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. That's the big opportunity.
right.
So let me give you some examples because this is the best way to explain it, right? So let me give you an example because it'll illustrate what I've been saying in this podcast. So this was in the energy space where it was literally like a case of we wanted to make the whole organization customer focused, and we had developed a customer experience statement, and the whole idea was to make it available to everyone, and everyone would come up with ideas to develop against the statement. And the mentality we used was, if you're not serving a customer directly, then you're supporting someone who is. So it was a common statement across the board, right? Now, when we actually did the presentation, I enlisted the support of my CEO to come with me on the roadshow. And there was this one slide, and the center of that slide was about help. So it wasn't about selling anything to our customers, but it was helping them. And when that slide came up, I noticed the crusty older staff members started nodding their heads in silent kind of agreement, right? And my CEO, to his credit, actually took those people aside after the presentation, and he had a chat and he said, "So, what are your thoughts on this?" And they said, "This will really work." It was that one slide where we replaced the word sell with help, and it had resonance. So people wanted to help other people, and that made all the difference. In another situation, in a similar kind of vein, we this was in finance. We actually went to staff members and expanded that a bit further. And we had all these service people. It was a second job in the family, and yeah, they came to serve. They didn't come to sell, and we wanted them to increase cross sell. And we wanted them to increase cross sell because there was economic benefit in it. And this was part of the whole strategy. We didn't just tell them we want you to increase cross sell. The first thing we did is we shared with them the absolute economic benefits of the strategy. So one is the more products people have, the more loyal they are, and the lifetime value goes up. The more products a customer has, the more valuable they are, obviously. But what we found very interesting was that the more products people had, the more likelihood they were to buy additional products. Kind of counterintuitive, right? Because normally you think if they already have quite a few products, why will they buy more? But their stickiness goes so high that they will then want to buy everything from you.
Right. That's
So
true.
we shared the strategy and the economics to that level of detail so they could understand the economics, right? Once we did that, then we said to them, we knew as an example, this cohort of staff had a great sense of a duty of care to customers, right? And we said to them, it's your duty of care to help customers save money, make money, protect their lifestyles, and save time. Because if you're not doing this, you're not fulfilling your duty of care. And again, the older people started nodding their heads, right? And we knew it would work. And it was a massive success. It brought in, independently valued like more than $45 million to the bottom line, 80,000 incremental sales. We had like segments A, B, C, D, E. The A and B were the big value segments, D and E were the low value segments. A and B went up, D and E went down. It was a massive, massive success. And the key aspect that made it successful was simply that we managed to tap into uh, the values and purpose set that I've had, and we managed to leverage it, right? And we made
Right.
it fun in the process.
That
So
was
hopefully those examples make sense.
absolutely, absolutely. I think they were very interesting, and they do have a lot of value that several organizations can actually kind of, tune it into the way they operate. So, as we wrap up episode 7, it's evident that the heartbeat of any successful CX NPS strategy lies within the dedication of its staff. But what happens when the strategy is not crystal clear? Join us in the next episode, which is episode 8, as we unravel the consequences of having a fuzzy CX or net promoter score strategy and the impact that it can have on your brand's journey to success. Stay tuned for more strategic insights on the strategy edge.